This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Once, they were two best friends managing a comic book store. But when an innocent blood oath went wrong, the two found themselves trapped in the same body, imprisoned in a strange pyramid made of long boxes, buried deep below their hometown, where they are doomed to discuss comic books until the end of time. They were once Joe and Matt. Now they are known as the Two-Headed Nerd. And this is their podcast.
Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area, where I assure you, Joe has been punished for repeat reviews of comics on last week's show. Let's just drop it, okay? It is our pleasure to welcome you to episode 760 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one. My name is Matt Baum. You'll be glad to know the powers that be did not make us carry through our suicide pact for what happened, because I talked them out of it. So,
but I'm just so tired. I'm the Internet's Joe Patrick, your head number two, and I forget things. I'm only human, goddammit. Plus, the search function on our website sucks.
Well,
I tried to find it.
We can work on that.
It's time for another new comics review show where we'll review 8 new comics from the last 2 weeks. After that, we'll set you up with our must-read new comic picks for next week.
Finally, you'll get a taste of our Patreon Extra, where the Cosmic Short Box has us revisiting Marvel's first G.I.Joe comic. But before that, get ready to make America say Yo Joe again, Spider-Man to get killed, and a new Skibbity Superman for Gen Alpha, and more, because it's review time in the Ziggurat. Pretty sure I used that.
Before we start slapping each other with floppy issues, here's how review time works. Each comic will be judged using our 3-point rating scale of buy it, skim it, or leave it. And in the end, we pick the best comic we read to add to our THN permanent collection. Our AI Macho posts our written reviews on twoheadednerd.com for your convenience, but you are here because you want to hear the full discussion. Macho, fetch our felt reading gloves and this episode's pile.
You fancy.
Of course, sir, Joe. Here are your review comics from the week of Wednesday, November 6th. If possible, please refrain from slapping each other with them for the sake of the collection.
Well, it wouldn't be a new comic show if we didn't begin with another chapter in the absolute DC all-in epic. It's Absolute Superman, number 1 from DC.
Saga? The absolute DC all-in saga?
I don't think we'll know until it's done. I think then we'll know what to call it. It's written by Jason Aaron, with art by Rafa Sandoval, colors by Ulysses Areola, letters by Becca Carey, cover by Sandoval. It's 44 pages for $4.99. You should know how these solicits go by now, but let's do it. Here we go. Superstars Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval unleash a shocking new take on the last son of Krypton. Without the fortress, without the family, without a home, what is left is the absolute Man of Steel.
Wow, what happened? What happened?
I don't know.
There?
It just sounded like I need to start singing. I don't know. I can't think of a creator right now, Jason Aaron specifically, who is working on a wider array of wild stuff. He's got Superman. He's got Uncle Scrooge. He's got TMNT. He's got a new horror book. Like, this dude is all over the place right now.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is the best looking version of Krypton I can remember seeing. This version of Krypton is so friggin' cool. It's like Blade Runner meets Eco Collapse, kind of. There's volcanoes. It's bright red. Everything's built out of this like red glass stone thing that they're mining.
Sure. I mean, like Sunstone.
Yeah.
Like the classic glassy Kryptonian mineral stuff.
And we get a really nice new take on Cal's parents. I dig it. It's no longer like My father was a member of the Science Council who said the star was going to blow up. And they were like, nuh-uh. And so he put me on a rocket. And then the star blew up. Like, there's a whole different take going on with him. He's sort of a member of a lower class. And that's why he wears his symbol. It's like a labor class.
Yeah, it's not his family crest in this version. It is the symbol of his caste.
I dig it. I really
or
his
class, yeah.
And it helps build for this different take on like the destruction of Krypton as well. This time, it's not like a star going nuclear. They messed up. It seems like there's an eco disaster that we're moving towards because the Science Guild or whoever the higher ups are just saying mine. Go get.
Yeah, I mean they mine the planet to death.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mentioned it a minute ago. We were talking about Krypton. The coloring in this book is stunning, absolutely gorgeous. It just glows on every page, and when we finally do start seeing, I will say it starts a little slow because we're telling a story. We're setting up some stuff on Krypton first. You get a peek at something going on Earth that is related to what's going on with Superman's dad and stuff. But these colors, when they're down in the mines and stuff, wearing the lights on their head and the mining suits, really well designed. This might be my favorite Krypton I've seen designed, honestly.
It does look very cool.
Yeah, I've never been real partial to the Krypton designs. They always seem kind of funny and stiff.
I also like how it's not all uniform. Like, as much as I love Superman the movie, the Richard Donner version of Krypton has a lot to answer for. It is just like one big ball of crystal, which I hate.
Yeah, which
this like has farmland. You know, it's got different regions and different types of topography and stuff.
This Krypton looks like a planet. It's got cities. It's got wild.
The mining
areas.
Suits are cool.
They're very cool. Yeah, and I like how Aaron directly connects Jor-El to Kal-El on this one. They're doing similar things. This Kal-El seems like he was a little older when shit went down on Krypton, so he knows. So on Earth, when he sees similar things going on, you understand why he's reacting the way he's reacting. Because he saw what happened to his home planet. Not as a baby, but I don't know, he's like 10, 12. Like he's old enough to know.
Probably 10.
Before he left, he definitely was not a baby. He knows what happened. So it makes sense why he's doing what he's doing on Earth. They do a nice job switching to Earth as well and keeping the story connected. I mean, there's something ecological going on here as well. But at the same time, they've reinvented the peacemakers, right? There's peacemakers instead of
peacemakers with an S.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they work for evil, evil corporation.
The Lazarus Corporation.
Also mining the hell out of the Earth, looking for diamonds and stuff like that.
Looking for Lazarus bits, I bet.
Yeah, it's really nice. He connected the two stories in a way that I don't know I've ever really felt Superman was connected to Krypton proper, other than he learned stuff about his past later.
Yeah, you're right. Because in every version of Superman that we've seen, at least every mainstream version of Superman that we've seen, he's either like still gestating in a science pod, like from John Byrne, and then he's technically born on Earth, or he's a baby.
Yeah.
And so he's not around to like know what Krypton is. Here he knows what Krypton is because he is of the age where he would definitely have memories of his parents.
And so it makes sense when we see the pacing's really good in this too, because it's not just full on Superman. We don't even get a look at him until 3/4 of the way through the book. And I will say his hair is not as pouty and emo as it looks on the
It's not as bad as in those promo images or even on the cover.
What'd you think of the suit?
It's a little.
What'd you think of the suit?
I mean, it's fine.
I kind of like
the suit's fine. It's sort of patterned after the mining suits. Really.
Yeah,
if you look at it, it shares design elements with the mining suits.
That's what I like about it. I think there's some like Kryptonese labor suit thing going on.
And there's a reason why his hands are on fire.
Yeah.
Like, there are story reasons that we won't get into for spoiler reasons, but
it does seem like he's got.
It's explained why. It's not just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if his arms and legs were on fire?
No. And it does seem like he's not alone in that suit as well. There's something is talking to him. So.
I mean, we're skirting spoiler territory here. I don't want to get too far into it.
No.
Yeah,
that's as far as I'll go with it.
It's like Absolute Batman in that there's a reason for why these things look the way they do. They're not just there because they're cool looking.
And it also sets this Superman apart from the Superman we know. I think this is a solid, fresh take that anybody could really jump into. New fan, old fan. The art, Jesus Christ, Sandoval. This dude just gets better and better and better. This is a huge buy it. I mean, I don't know. Of the three, it's like, where do I place this? And I'm gonna have to think about that.
Third. It's it's my least of the three.
Oh, really?
I mean, but like, look, man, that's not a negative. It's like there's got to be a first and a second.
Let's talk about it on the gang hang with everybody, because I'd like to hear what other people have read it, because I don't know.
It's funny because opinion has been kind of divided on this on our Discord.
Really?
Yes. Some people just didn't latch onto it as much.
Well, we'll get into it.
And
Saturday.
we'll get
into it.
I will say, like, this is a buy it for me. I enjoyed it as well. But I will say there's something about this one where Aaron doesn't necessarily execute that sort of absolute, paradigm shift as well as Snyder and Kelly Thompson did. Huh. I mean, it's not that it's not good. It's not that it doesn't have a lot of different ideas, but I don't know. And also the choice of Rafa Sandoval, who I do love.
He is a big name. You said
it before.
He's a big name.
It's like, this is just superhero art, as opposed to the Batman book or the Wonder Woman book where the art is so different.
I don't disagree, but I also think if I'm Jason Aaron,
it is beautiful. I'm not saying it's not.
If I'm Jason Aaron and they're like, handpick the guy you want to do this, and he's like, can I get Rafa Sandoval? Yeah. Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'm not mad at it at all. I'm not mad at the art at all. But I mean, I can understand why this might not be as exciting to people as Batman or Wonder Woman. And to me, as much as I liked it, I was more excited about those other two.
Fair enough.
But again, this is still a buy it. It's still great.
It's great.
And
it's great.
I'm eager to see where Aaron goes with it.
Let's talk about this in the gang hang Saturday. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, please. Well, while we're on the All-In train, let's move on to what is, in my mind, the biggest relaunch of the All-In experiment. It's JSA #1 from DC. It's written by Jeff Lemire with art by Diego Olortegui. Colors are by Luis Guerrero. Letters are by Steve Wands. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. The new era of the JSA begins here! Longtime fan favorite characters Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Jade, Obsidian, Jesse Quick, Hourman, Ted Grant, and Sandman are all back on the roster as DC's first super team faces their greatest and most personal challenge yet. Will Golden Age ideals hold true in a world recovering from the events of absolute power? Or do they need a more hardcore approach to stand a chance?
Way more
against
hardcore.
The new Injustice Society of America.
Way more hardcore. That's why they have all the spikes and the chains. Then they
I was going to say that's why they're all bottomless.
Everybody's got
it's like hardcore
knife fingers and stuff. Like they're way hardcore now. Yeah.
So Jeff Lemire is throwing readers into the deep end of the story here. It picks up after the elder members of the JSA have disappeared to parts unknown. But before we get to all of that, Lemire and Olortegui, they give us a few great pages recapping the Justice Society's history and proclaiming its relevance to the DCU. I really liked that little intro.
It seems like something Jeff Johns could not have done in less than 64 pages, right? He just couldn't, you wouldn't be able to stop himself.
So the old guys are gone and the younger members are left to run the team, and they're split on how it should operate. I thought that the level of conflict seemed a little unearned, but that's one of the problems you face when you start a story in the middle. And at least the dissension comes from characters that make sense. It's not like, oh man, I can't believe our man is on this side when he really would have been on this side. It's like, oh no. Everybody on each side makes perfect sense to me.
I think that's what the story, I think it's earned, because I think that's what Lemire's going for here. Like to show.
But the level of like the level of ire they had with each other.
Well, I just think it's because, like, look, at the end of the day, they are held together by these people that aren't there, and they're realizing that. And we're probably going to realize we've got to come together just like our family, bro, you know?
Sure.
Right? I did get the feel, though, like, the old guys disappearing into the thing that they're in, it does remind me of a Black Hammer thing that happened pretty big time. So,
to be fair, the JSA did it first. Boom.
They did?
Yeah. I mean, see, I don't want to come right out and say it.
Oh,
but
don't worry about it. You can tell me later.
Yeah. We get some fun twists and turns along the way, and we get a hint that the JSA's big guns may be stuck in a place very familiar to longtime fans. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, Black Hammer did something similar, but the JSA, the original JSA went away for a long time, and this feels like that. And if you want more details, come at me. We'll talk about it. I think Diego Olortegui's doing a great job on the art here. His storytelling is strong. His action scenes are fun and dynamic. The problem for me is that I'm just not sure he's a great fit for the JSA. Like, maybe the art feels a little too modern and too, like,
I disagree. Okay.
Exaggerated.
I think I know where you're coming from, and I felt it as well in the first few pages. But as we got into it, I feel like I settled into his art a little bit. And look, man, we got to update this stuff a little bit if we're going to sell it. We have to. We can't.
Yeah. No, it's not that. Right. It's not that I don't like the art.
For ages 45 plus, you know, like we've got to.
Right. Like, I'm not recommending, like, I'm not saying, you know, trot out.
I think he's really good. And he balanced modern and classic with some of these costumes really well. It did grow.
Yeah.
It had to grow on me. But I when I first started, I went, this is a little too flashy. This is a little too. Scott Collins meets John Romita Jr. You know,
I'm not suggesting like, oh, they should have trotted out Jerry Ordway to draw this. Right. I was like, I love Jerry Ordway, but no, we need somebody fresh. But I don't know. There was I think maybe I just need a little bit more time to grow into it, because he is very good.
He's great.
I'm giving this a buy it. I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a buy it for me as well. When he started drawing the old guys in the place, I went, oh, okay, now I see what this guy can do. I think we had a lot of the younger people that are wearing sort of updated costumes, reminiscent of other things. That was all very modern. But when we flash to what else is going on, I think he showed he can balance both very well. This is a buy it. I'm happy to have Jeff Lemire here. Quite honestly, I'm glad Johns is off the book. I don't think he was enjoying himself, and I want to enjoy the JSA.
I mean, look, the dude wrote 12 bad issues. Come on. He also wrote 60 great ones. So
12 in a row. 12 in a row. And those 60 great ones were how many years ago? Come on, Joe.
Yeah, but, I don't think that last series was all bad. But I agree that this feels more... It's more like a return to form.
I want to read this. I'll say that. I don't feel like it's a punishment.
The last one didn't feel like a punishment.
Sure,
you're exaggerating.
By the end, I was just like, oh, God, let's finish. I'm going to take a break from superheroes for my weekly dose of Dark Horse comics in the pages of Living Hell #1 from Dark Horse, written and drawn by Caitlin Yarsky, letters by Clayton Cowles, who gets featured right there on the cover in big letters because there's only one artist and inker, so they had room. Good for you, Clayton. You deserve it, man.
I mean, that's not the only reason why.
No, I know.
He's a valuable member of the creative team.
Cover also by Yarsky. She did it all. 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. Meet Jerome Jamil, husband, father, demon. Hell is not just a place, it's a prison, a realm where demons have lived in exile for eons. A few of them find a way back to the human world where they hide in plain sight. Jerome was one of the lucky few to escape and start a new life. And for the sake of his daughter, Jerome is determined to stay out of trouble. But when he comes face to face with one of Hell's bounty hunters, his plans go awry. Caitlin Yarsky's create her own debut. I also think this is her writing debut. I couldn't find anything else that she had written comic-wise.
I have no idea. I am
wrong.
not real. I know the name, but other than that, I am not familiar with her
She
work.
worked on Coyotes at Image, which looked really good. And she worked on a lot of those not a lot of, but some of those Black Hammer minis that came out over the years. She is an exceptional artist, a cartoonist of like the highest level. Her stuff looks gorgeous. Like these panels could start moving at any time and it wouldn't freak me out at all. I'd just be like, oh, we're doing old school Don Bluth kind of like house animation. This is gorgeous. This is another one of those books where I didn't read the solicit before I read the book. I just looked at the cover and went, that looks neat. I'm going to check it out. I don't know that name. And I'm glad I didn't, because she paces it so well that the book starts off very slice of life. It lets you know you're on Earth, normal things are going on, and then they do one little thing on that same page where you go, oh, there's something else going on here too. And it's really cool. There's nothing heavy-handed here. Like Yarsky takes her time. She fleshes out an Indian American family dealing with money problems, dealing with an aging parent. Mom is dealing with some paranoia issues that obviously stem from feeling out of control with her life. I'm sure a lot of you have bumped into family members dealing with certain things and voted a certain way, but whatever. So, not to mention the fact that like she goes out of her way to draw them as a family. Like everybody has like a similar kind of nose. The mom and the daughter.
The mom, the dad,
eyes.
and the daughter have like the exact same facial features. Almost.
Like
it's very well done.
She paid attention to this detail. So the everyday stuff, the slice of life stuff, looks really good. And there's some cute moments. She takes time to build this family into something believable, right? So when you get to the swerve with the dad, he's a demon. It's right there in the solicit.
I don't even really think it's a swerve, because right from the first page, he's like, maybe I'll just give that woman agoraphobia.
Yeah, but
she's really
I didn't
bugging me,
like,
you know.
But you don't know. Is he just like saying this stuff? Does he wish he had it? Like, you don't know.
You know, I thought he was a genie.
When we get to the point where we find out he is a demon that escaped from hell, you're already rooting for him, right? Because they've fleshed him out well enough to show like, well, yeah, he comes from a different place. He was a god. They ran away from these people that are trying to round them all up. There's several of them all laying low, just doing their things. They just don't want to go back to hell. And they have problems just like you and me. And if they start using their powers, you're going to pay for it. They've got magic, but using it is dangerous. It attracts certain kinds of attention.
There's oversight.
Yeah. And once you've attracted that attention, you can either do something about it or run. But if you do something about it, now you got a whole new set of responsibilities. It's very clever. The book looks great. This was a pleasant surprise. I had a lot of fun with this. And man, Caitlin Yarsky, double threat. You did it. This is a buy it. Pleasant surprise.
You texted me 2 nights ago, maybe, and you were like, oh, Living Hell. It was great. And so I kind of stopped what I was doing and I read it on the spot, and I loved it. I loved it. The artwork is gorgeous. What I loved most, well, not most, but one of the things that I loved is that it's not as simple as Jerome being a demon from hell.
Yeah.
It's that he was a god, and then he and his contemporaries were banished to hell and reclassified as demons. So he's not evil.
No, not necessarily. Some of them may have been. Like the guy, there's
Some,
one character.
he says many of us were gods.
Yeah.
So sure, there's some demons, probably.
Sure. But beyond that, the bigger thing that's even more complex, he's got a wife and kids now. And they don't know.
And like, you know, his best friend and mentor or whatever is also one of them. And like, he's doing a terrible job, like coping, you know, and it's like, yeah, man, it's so good. It's so good. And like the twist of what happens, there's a page, and I texted it to Matt. There is a page, a 2-panel sequence where Jerome has to flex his might for the first time, let's say. And I was just like, chills. I was so impressed. This is a huge buy it for me. I love this comic. Very well done, Caitlin.
I fell against the control board.
Moving on to the sponsored distillery portion of our show.
Thank you, Chip.
It's One for Sorrow, #1. Shout out to Chip.
Do good work here, Chip. We appreciate it.
This has story and art by Jamie McKelvey. I was just on autopilot when I started writing, and I was like, written by Kieran Gillen. And then I was like, wait, no.
Same.
Story and art by Jamie McKelvey.
Same. I like halfway through, I was like, who is drawing this?
Colors are by Courtney Vokey. Letters are by Ariana Maher. Packaging, whatever that means, by Tiny Onion Incorporated. Shout out to Jimmy the Four.
All right, getting paid.
It's 48 pages for $8.99. It's distillery. It's a beefy boy. You know how it goes. Here's your solicit. Jamie McKelvey is back with his first solo creator-owned project in over a decade. London, 1900. The capital hums with the energy of the new era, but something darker lurks beneath the surface. A monstrous figure stalks the city's criminal underworld at night, leaving a trail of bloody corpses in its wake. Rumors about the mysterious killer spread like wildfire. It's a demon, a phantom, an angel of vengeance. Nothing can kill it. Nothing can stop it. And once it picks a new target, well, he better have a coffin picked out.
Whoa.
Because he's already dead.
Damn.
That's so fucking tough. The only clue that a baffled police force has to work with is the black and white feather left on each corpse. The only clue that a baffled police force has to work with is the black and white feather left on each corpse, leading the press to dub the killer the Magpie. Is the Magpie killing at random, or is there a pattern that no one else can see? 3 individuals, strangers to each other, might together have the answer. Madame Hendrikov, the Russian medium with an upper-class clientele desperate for the secrets of the dead. Bess Turner, the East End barmaid caught up in the schemes of an organized crime gang. And Ignatius Thorne, the world's most famous consulting detective, brought to ruin by horrific tragedy. I mean, couldn't use Sherlock Holmes, I suppose.
Yeah.
The artistic mastermind behind The Wicked and the Divine, Captain Carter, and Catwoman, One Bad Day, is back with a new comic unlike anything he's created before. One for Sorrow. One for Sorrow is an intensely stylish supernatural suspense thriller full of kinetic action, bloody revenge, and ghostly mystery. So, that's a solicit. It's lengthy.
Well, they want to make sure you know everything that's going to happen here. So.
Well, I mean, to their credit, they don't give it all away. So, the issue kicks off with an excellent introduction to the Magpie, who is sort of like an Edwardian England version of the Punisher, I guess.
Yeah.
We're also introduced to an array of different characters, many of which seem disconnected at first. I really enjoyed how their stories build over the course of the issue before it all kind of dovetails together. I would have enjoyed reading separate stories of the Magpie and the Investigator, or the Medium, or the Underworld Barmaid.
Sure.
But the way they all connect is very clever.
I will say it was a little dense at first. And then I realized how
it's a long comic and there's a lot of story in it.
Yeah. And like midway through, part of me, I started to be like, okay, and maybe it was me. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. I went like, all right, wait a minute. I got to back up. Because I got a little lost. So it's dense. It's definitely dense. That's not a bad thing. Just get ready for a dense read.
Right. Like I thought I had the Magpie thing figured out.
I did
halfway through.
I did too.
And then, there's further intrigue as you go.
There's further magpieing. Yes.
I did really love how McKelvey kept you guessing until the final pages of the issue, which deliver an amazing twist that recontextualizes everything you just read.
Yeah.
No spoilers here at all. I implore you to go in as cold as you can. The art, of course, is stunning, aided by Courtney Vokey's otherworldly colors, or as they have it here, colors.
Oh, maybe he colors things the British way. Come on.
Obviously. I was legitimately surprised and impressed by the issue's final twist. I loved this comic. I chose it at random on a whim. I was like, oh, I need another comic. And I was blown away. This is a huge buy it for me.
This is really good. And McKelvey he demonstrates that he's not just an incredible artist. The man is an incredible artist, no question, and a master draftsman. Like the architecture and stuff in this book, it's perfect.
Yes.
It's gorgeous.
Yes.
But also the way he designs characters. The magpie, so simple, right? Cape, long coat, bird head, black boots.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
a plague doctor's mask.
That's all you need. That's all you need. And it's super creepy and it's super effective. He's really good at this. And I'll tell you what, there's like a mandate at Distillery that this has to be the best looking book on the stands. And once again, they did it. This is a buy it. Buy it. Great stuff.
Now we move to your review comics for the week of Wednesday, November 16th. And not one slap yet. Well done, sirs.
Thank you, Macho. And now we move to our obligatory X book for the week with Psylocke, #1 from Marvel. It's written by Alyssa Wong, with art by Vincenzo Caratu, colors by Fernando Cifuentes, letters by Ariana Maher, who gets her second appearance in this episode. Main cover by Mahmoud Asrar and Matt Wilson. It is 40 pages for $3.99.
Great cover.
Great cover, yeah.
While we're on the subject of the X books, and before we get too deep into your review, I just want to reiterate, I hate the Juggernaut's new costume.
I hate it. Every time I see it,
He
I
looks
hate it
so
more.
fucking stupid.
Every time I see it, I hate it more. Like
It makes me angry.
And also, I mean, look, this is something else we can talk about in the gang. It's a side thing. But I just don't think he has any business on an X team. I don't. It doesn't. I love the Juggernaut.
I like him being on the... I'm fine with him being on the
a
X-Men.
good guy. I'm fine with him helping out every once in a while. I just don't need him on an X team. It doesn't make sense. He's not even a mutant. He's not a mutant.
Yeah, but what else are they going to do with him? If they're going to make him a good guy, then when else are we going to get our
Take him
Juggernaut
out
as
of
a
that
good guy fix?
costume and have him team up with somebody in the Psylocke book for a couple issues or some shit. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. Right
Make
now,
him one of the West Coast Avengers.
we're going to talk about, sure, we're going to talk about this comic. This is Psylocke #1 from Marvel. It's written by Alyssa Wong. I already said all that. Here's your solicit. She was made for violence, just like me. Trained to be an assassin since birth, just like me. Quanon chose to be an X-Man. I didn't do that. But there is still some jobs too dirty for the X-Men. And some paths have to be walked alone. When the mission is brutal, Psylocke unleashes her blades to punish those who prey on mutants. Exploding out of the pages of X-Men, Alyssa Wong and Vincenzo Caratu take Psylocke into the underbelly of the Marvel Universe, carving out her own place in a world that would rather see her under control. So a solo X book, it's got to do 3 things, right? It's got to give the character a side mission when not X-Manning. It's got to flesh out their personal life, and it's got to look really good doing it. That's it. You check those 3 boxes. Generally, you got a success.
I mean, it needs to justify its own existence
Yes.
and not look like trash.
Right. So let's check these boxes here. Wong, I thought, did a nice job giving a side mission story for Psylocke and her new person in the chair partner, sending her on missions. It is a little Mission Impossible, kind of
Whatever. I
Yeah,
like a good
but
person in the chair
That's
story.
fine. I'm okay with it, right? And the mission, it's not bad. She is breaking up mutant trafficking and stuff like that. All right. I like it. She's not into that. She gets to deal with terrible people. So she can kill them and we don't feel bad for them, right? They're awful.
She doesn't, though, is the thing.
She doesn't
Is that
kill
she's not
most of
supposed to
them.
be out there massacring people.
She doesn't kill most of them, but she does kill a couple.
She does kill one for sure.
And she feels
at the
bad
end.
about it. Yeah, no question. Her personal life. I like what they have set up in the pages of X-Men with John Greycrow, and we're going to investigate that here. Greycrow used to be Scalp Hunter. It's kind of a bum name, so we changed it. I totally get it.
Yeah, right. We're not going to call them that.
Right.
But I love their relationship.
I kind of like their relationship. And if I have a complaint, it would be, I would like to see more of him in this book. I hope that's coming.
It's a real, it's a real like Storm Forge vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't mean
Yeah.
that just because he is indigenous. I
Right.
mean that because like they're kind of estranged, but they keep finding each other.
But also, there's no way the X-Men would be down with their relationship. It'd be like,
well,
yeah,
sure.
great.
I mean, yeah,
Do it.
John Gray. Well, but I mean, they made him like he was a Hellion, like he was an X-Man.
He was a hell, but he was still in big trouble. And Wolverine was like, that guy's awful. And if he steps out of line, I'm going to cut his head off. And everybody was like, yeah.
Sure, but he's
a
feeling much
monster.
better.
Sure he is. Does the comic look good? Yes. Oh my
Hell yes.
God, this comic looks good. Karatu is ready for the big time. In fact, I would be fine with Ryan Stegman doing something else and they could just give the X-Men book to this guy because he is so good.
I mean, yeah.
He's so good, especially like the ninja stuff, her flipping around, sticking her side
The
blade
action
into
is
his
rad.
heads.
Yeah.
It looks great. She looks great. The only thing that got me, there is more than a few scenes of her with her mouth wide open. It's just like,
A gape.
Yes.
A gape,
Yeah.
as they say.
yeah,
Yes.
like joke sex doll mouth open. And I'm not sure why we're doing it all the time. But other than that, this book looks amazing. Okay, so there.
It looks like she's about to suck on a chili dog outside the Tasty Freeze.
Right. So check. I will say, kind of a generic setup. You got Cyclops doing you're benched. You've been burning the candle on both ends. You're going to burn out if you keep it up.
work in this town
You're a danger to yourself and everybody around you. You got to get some rest, you know?
I'm going to bust your spaghetti bending butt back to my land.
That's not where I was going with that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like the angry captain in a police movie.
Yeah, there's some kind of cheesy writing where like she wakes up from a nightmare and she's like, let me yell out my entire origin story real quick.
Yeah, very Wolverine, right? Where
Right,
she wakes up, I could have killed you. Wakes up in bed, I could have killed you.
And quite honestly, I would not have minded if they put her in charge of X-Force, and this was my X-Force book with her and John Greycrow and a few other mutants that are mad about what went down in Krakoa. There's no real X-Men right now, so you can get away with this X-Force murder squad thing, and you can go out.
But there are real X-Men right now.
Well, I
There's
mean,
two
sure.
teams of real X-Men right now.
But what I'm saying is they're nowhere near as organized as they were, so now you can get away with this stuff.
I
And
suppose.
I don't care about what's going on the pages of X-Force. I liked this. I'm giving this a buy it. And you know what? I am on record not giving a single shit about this character, Quanon. This is not
Specifically
Betsy.
Quanon, yeah.
This is Quanon, the Asian body that Betsy was in for a
I
while.
barely cared about her when it was Betsy.
Right.
And then once Quanon came back, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then they kept putting her in good stories.
But I will say,
Like that-
this is this is your Asian X-Men representation.
I mean, yeah.
There's nothing else out there.
Yes, but there's Jubilee as well. Like they're out there.
I mean,
But-
but what's she in? What is she in?
Uncanny X-Men. Jubilee's in Uncanny
Oh,
X-Men.
yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Before this, I didn't really care about Quanon. I didn't think it was like, sure, it's a fun little twist that like, oh, Betsy stole they stole somebody's body and gave it to Betsy.
Sure.
And that person wants their body back. Like
Right.
that's a fun twist. What I didn't need was, hey, the person that originally drove the body keeps coming back.
Yeah.
I didn't need that. I don't care.
We don't need years and years
But
and years of this. No.
Once we got Betsy back in her traditional form, and they still wanted to have their cake and eat it too by keeping Psylocke, which makes sense to me because she's popular. That Fallen Angels book, notwithstanding, that Krakoan launch book, Fallen Angels, was awful trash.
Well,
it was so bad.
Let's come back here.
I'm just saying, but they have kept, but everything that they've done with Psylocke since then has been good and has made me like the character more and more.
I will say it's
And
been a
this
step in the right direction. Not all of it
Yeah.
I've loved, but it's been a step in the right direction.
Right. I mean, yes, that's what
And I
mean.
think Wong
And
facilitated a lot of that.
And I think that this issue is a great first issue in what could be a very compelling solo title.
Yeah.
You keep talking about the generic stuff, and sure, some of it is a little like played, but I still like those tropes. Like I like the MGH mutant trafficking trope. You know?
Well, no, I mean,
I-
look, it gets
it-
her to where she needs to be. And I don't have a problem with the MGH thing. Sure, I'll buy that Ames doing that. Sure, you know.
Sure. I will tell you, with regards to the art, I loved like fashion forward businesswoman AIM auctioneer.
Yeah, power suit.
She wasn't wearing just like the beekeeper outfit.
No.
It was like this like
It's a
tailored looking thing.
This is Hillary Clinton power suit with an AIM
Right,
helmet on.
yeah, pretty great. This is a buy it. This book is very good. Yeah, it's very good. We said it. All right, we all know why you're really here, you filthy little maniacs. Let's get to it. It's G.I. Joe #1 from Image Comics. It's written by Joshua Williamson with art by Tom Riley. Colors are by Jordi Belair. Letters are by Russ Wooten. Word to Russ Wooten for lettering apparently every single comic book in the Energon universe. It's 40 pages for $4.99, and here's your solicit. Series premiere! The biggest comic book launch of the decade! Old.
It also feels like G.I. Joe launched 2 years ago.
It really does, and
we're
I mentioned that in my
getting
review.
to it now.
Conrad Hauser, codenamed Duke, has assembled a special force known as G.I. Joe to battle the rising power of the mysterious Cobra in the aftermath of the Autobots and Decepticons' arrival on Earth. But the enigmatic Cobra commander has unleashed the power of Energon like never before, featuring many familiar faces and the first appearance of an all-new character. This is the comic that will change everything you think you know about G.I. Joe, and that's only half the surprises in store from the chart-topping Energon Universe Dream Team of Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley. As Matt said, and it was very fun, but still, after what seems like an eternity of buildup,
Really?
Skybound's rebooted version of G.I. Joe is finally here. The status quo diverges from the classic lore in some fun ways, like the Baroness being a member of the Joe team. Not a spoiler. It's on the cover. You can tell. She's got a star in her chest, not a cobra. Williamson centers the team and the story around Duke, which makes sense. He and Riley tackled the Duke Mini that helped start this revival. I loved how they gave nearly everyone in the very large cast a chance to shine. We do get a look. I forgot to mention this in my notes. We get a look at a character named Risk.
He is the new.
And he must be the new character, but just kind of basing a little bit on his looks, the fact that he's got an eagle on his belt and stuff, I thought maybe we were getting a less stereotypical reboot of Spirit.
Yeah, but he's cool. And I like that we're adding new Joes.
It was very cool to have Cobra developing a classic G.I. Joe staple as part of the main plot, and to have it be a lot more dangerous than it was when we were kids. Ain't nobody walking away from what they do here. Tom Riley's art, really great. He does an excellent job depicting action that's full of pseudoscience and futuristic, sometimes alien technology, but it also still feels kind of grounded and militaristic, like a traditional depiction of the American military.
Or at least a very traditional depiction of G.I. Joe. I'll say that.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say
I mean,
that.
it's kind of like we're gonna mention this a bit in the extra, but it does feel very much like a superhero version of the American military.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, baby. You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah, of course. His non-action scenes, though they are few and far between, are equally compelling.
And there's a contingent of shitheads out there that hate it. That say, this
Those assholes
looks
are
like
so stupid.
crap. And they're like, God, give me the IDW G.I. Joe. Like, grow up. Just grow up, you guys.
No, a lot of
Grow
those books
up.
were awful.
Yeah. And
You people don't remember.
and they look fine, sure. Don't get me wrong.
They want every book to be G.I. Joe, a real American hero. And
Yes.
guess what? They've got that.
Yes.
It's still going.
It's
Go
still
read it.
going.
The contributions of colorist Jordi Belair cannot be overstated. Her work adds this kind of like 3D offset effect
Yeah.
that makes Riley's art literally leap into your brain from the page. It's so cool.
It does something kind of classic feel to it as well, where it gives it like this sort of not retro, but you know, like cartoon, pop art, fun, action.
Pop art, sure.
Yeah,
Yes, it
it's
feels very,
cool.
yes, absolutely. This is a huge buy it. This was everything I wanted the G.I. Joe revival to be. I absolutely adored it.
Look, we knew this was going to be good. We had the same creative team on the Duke book, and we loved it, and it was fantastic. So you knew, not a big surprise. G.I. Joe #1 is great. I am curious to see when we start leaning into the Transformers stuff, how this feels. Because part of me is like, just do the G.I. Joe. Just do G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, Cobra. Just do that. Just do it, you know? So,
Like, there'll be a crossover.
well, yeah. I mean, they're already hinting at it here. So, and they've been hinting at it the whole time, I guess. But what I really liked is I read this going, fuck yeah, of course I knew I was going to like this. And then I got to the last page and I had to text you and go, did that just happen on the last page?
Yeah.
There are stakes here. It's not just red laser versus blue laser. Everything's going to be fine. Yo, Joe, they're going to win. There's stakes here. Williamson understands the game, understands the exercise, and understands part of updating this is it's got to get fairly serious. We've got to do some stuff with it. We can't just, Cobra's going to try and make it rain at the beach, you know, or whatever.
And Cobra's taking over a fast food franchise.
Right. Yeah, like, this is great. And I think Williamson is taking it very seriously. You can tell he loves this stuff, and he's having a blast. I'm in. Buy it. Because you demanded it. Tom Hardy has a new Dark Horse comic book.
I was demanding it.
Arcbound #1 from Dark Horse, written by Tom Hardy, Frank Thierry, and Scott Snyder. It's really developed by Tom Hardy. The
character development by Tom Hardy.
Development by
written
Tom
by
Hardy.
Scott Snyder and Frank Thierry.
Art by Ryan Smallman. Colors by Frank William. Letters by Buddy Bodin. Main cover by Smallman. It is 32 pages for $3.99.
I don't think that's how he pronounces his name.
I hope
Ryan
he does.
Smallman.
Yeah, like he's a super guy. Like he gets really small, you know? Like, how can we defeat him? He's too small.
Help us, small man. You're our only hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's your solicit. In a future where Earth has become a barren wasteland, Zinatech, great name, sounds like it could be something that helps you, you know, with all kinds of
Sounds like an
maladies right
allergy
now.
medicine.
Yeah, right now. Zinatech is the way I roll now. You know,
Yeah. May cause anal leakage and suicidal thoughts.
Zinatech harnesses the unmatched energy of chromium to assert its dominion across the stars. When Kai, a rising star mediator in Zinatech's army, gets an unexplained message from a mysterious entity, everything he thinks he believes is thrown into question, and it leaves him to explore what it truly means to be human in a world where boundaries of technology and identity blur. The first comic developed by Venom and Mad Max's Tom Hardy. Take my money now! Buy it! We're done here. Arcbound. Great cover. I really like this cover. And so Smallman is an artist that I've followed for a little while now. I really like what he does. It is very stylish, very cartoonish.
I don't know. I'm not sure how he has managed this, like what his career is like outside of comics. But I looked him up on Instagram to do our picks of the week for today, and he's got almost 60,000 followers.
He's good at what he does. I
mean,
guess.
but that is like fucking Mark Waid doesn't have 60,000 followers.
I don't know.
on Instagram.
Maybe he's just really good at Instagram, right?
I guess, yeah.
Now, he does draw the main character, Kai, who's obviously supposed to be Tom Hardy. So if we've got a movie coming, we know who he's going to play. And the story opens with something horrible. You don't totally understand what happens. They're talking about what it is to be human and all these things. And then we flash to the past, right? On a different colony where we see a character, we don't necessarily know who it is, and their partner murdering. Straight murder, super tough guy, badass cartoon murder for the sake of murder. And it doesn't matter why. You start to realize it does not matter why they're doing what they're doing. We're here to introduce an even better murderer.
But you do find out why they're doing it.
We'll get there.
And
But we are introducing an even better murderer, a robot named War with 2 R's.
2 R's, yeah. Is he a robot? Because he's got a big old fat belly like Santa Claus.
I think they may reveal that there's something else going on there, but right now it doesn't talk. And it is obviously part of some of the theme here is, humans being replaced by robots or AI. Like, it is brought in when basically the mediators aren't killing fast enough. And like, we need you to kill faster so we can get this job done here.
I think we're going to find out something tragic about war.
I think so too. I think that's definitely coming because he is wearing a type of helmet that looks like it has some type of.
It's got glass. It's got a dome.
Well, not just that. It's got like a
dome.
rebreather or something.
Oh, like a rebreather. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I did like how you could tell what
helmets.
team everybody was on because they all have distinct logos like the Battle Beasts.
Yeah. And the humans are wearing the same helmet as the robot too. So I think there's some signaling.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Something going on. But there's themes, robotics, AI taking human jobs, corporate greed. There's a really nice character building for Kai as he kind of starts to question his orders. Like while in this first battle, and I'm not going to give anything away, but in this first battle, there's a scene where somebody definitely jumps on his back and they're like, we're trying to negotiate. And you start to and you don't get a reason for why they're bad or what they're doing. One side is definitely overpowered. The other side is getting murdered. And it becomes very apparent because it's best for business. Look, it's just best for business.
They're union busters.
Maybe along those lines. But there's a very snarky message going on here. And I think they take their time with it by first hitting you with a bunch of egregious violence, very well drawn, really good action. And then we slowly start to realize, like that meme you see of the two Nazi soldiers where they're talking to each other and like,
from Mitchell and Webb. Are we the baddies? Right. They've got skulls on their hats. And like, wait a minute.
It's like if you think about your job just for a minute,
right,
and scrape back and ask like, hey, maybe there's a way, like, and you're immediately just shut down. It goes along with this like, we've all worked for corporations and we know what it's like to be like, all right, I'll do my job, but this seems whatever. This is just basically man screwed up Earth so bad. We had to leave, go into space to find more of this stuff, chromium, which is like space metal. Doesn't matter.
Unobtainium.
Yeah. Right. They don't really know what they do with it. They know we've got enough to last the next 200 years. Why do we need it so bad? And they're like, well, because remember that enemy we haven't seen forever, they could come back at any time. You're like, this all sounds very familiar to some things that are happening right now in the world. But anyway, I thought they did a nice job fleshing the character out. They do a lot in this first issue. I think Hardy was smart to let Snyder and Thierry do the writing. I'm giving this a buy it. I had fun with it. It's a nice...
Well, yeah, Hardy ain't got time to actually script a comic book.
No.
Right? And so he probably was like, oh, Keanu's got one. Keanu's got a comic. Why can't I have a comic?
Yeah. This reminded me of like kind of snarky sci-fi, like Old Man's War and Starship Troopers, stuff like that. Yeah.
You mentioned to me, yeah. And on my first reading, even though I kind of got the message, I was like, I didn't like it. I didn't really care for this. And then you and I talked about it a little bit. And I read it again today. In the light of day, like, everything feels different when you read it late at night and you're,
nude,
almost about to drift off to adrenaline,
naked. Yeah. And then you put clothes on and you're not naked anymore. And everything's different, right?
After I covered up my shame and the sun was out, I read it again. I'm not partial to the art. That is a personal preference thing, a personal taste thing. I cannot deny that he does a great job. The art, he does a very good job drawing the book. It's just not necessarily my cup of tea.
Fair. I like his style.
And that's fine. And that's great.
You know what it reminds me? John Kay from Ren and Stimpy. That's kind of what it reminds me of. It's like,
hopefully without the sex pest.
That
thing.
wacky.
But yeah, I think that the message is very good. It is sort of like, no offense to Tom Hardy, but it is very kind of grade school philosophy or dime store philosophy. Like, wait a minute, corporations are bad. I mean, yeah, duh. But when you find out what they're actually doing and what they're actually fighting against, who the enemy is that they're supposedly fighting, and once Kai's eyes are opened and he's literally not allowed to do anything about it, he doesn't get the chance. That stuff I thought was compelling.
Well, it's not even that he doesn't get the chance. It's not good for business if he does. You know,
Well,
like,
I mean,
that's
that's what I mean. Is that
that's
like
the scary part?
the second he truly finds out
Yeah.
the depths of the horror. I mean, and there's also this other thing going on that you didn't really mention is that like it's not just that they're slaughtering this quote unquote resistance. They are taking the survivors, merging them into metal robot bodies called the Arc. That's where the Arcbound thing comes from. And then forcing them to go back to work.
They're giving
forever.
They're giving them jobs, Joe.
Yeah, right. Get it? They're doing you a favor.
They're giving you jobs.
And so it's just like it's sleazy on a whole nother level. Anyway, this is not why you tuned into this podcast to hear our opinions, but Workers of the World Unite. Arcbound #1 on a second reading. I did enjoy it a lot more. I am going to give it a buy it as well.
That's good.
The end. Sorry, I thought maybe I'd have a thought to wrap that up, but I don't. Our last review of the week goes to Amazing Spider-Man 61 from Marvel. But Joe, you might be asking yourself, Matt just reviewed Amazing Spider-Man 60 last 2 weeks ago on the show. When, yeah, that's how it goes, baby.
Loyal
Life
listeners,
comes at you fast.
no, that was Zeb Wells' final issue. That's why we talked.
That was Zeb Wells' final issue, and this is Joe Kelly's first issue. It's written by Joe Kelly with pencils by Ed McGuinness, inks by Mark Farmer, colors by Marcio Meniz, painted sequence or dream sequence by Nico Henrichan, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, 32 pages for $4.99. Here's your solicit. The 8 deaths of Spider-Man begin. The world has changed. Dr. Doom is Sorcerer Supreme, but he has no plans to spend his time like his predecessor. Each year, Doctor Strange would use every ounce of his power and experience to save the world from an evil god and his scions. Not just any god, Satorak, the guy who gave the Juggernaut his powers.
The guy who made sure the Juggernaut was not a mutant.
Well, sure. This year, Doom is delegating this task to Spider-Man? The leader of Latveria has given Spider-Man a new magic-powered suit and 8 extra lives with which to save the world. True believer, they won't be enough. So, Kelly kicks off his run by resetting the character, so to speak. And while he does it, he flexes his comedic writing chops. We get this fun scene where he's fighting this pyro wannabe while saving a falling window washer. And while the guy is strapped to his back, and the guy's named Kevin, and he's like, Kevin, catch my backpack. Now catch everything that fell out of my backpack as we fall.
Well, and also,
it's very fun.
They're having a full discussion about this guy's name.
We get to the point almost immediately. 4 pages in, Doom shows up. Kelly's not wasting any time, guys. I really liked Kelly's characterization here. It's not the first time Peter has faced Doom alone, and he is not scared.
No.
I mean, he should be. Dr. Doom constantly.
Well, I mean, he is, but what else is he going to do? But be like,
yeah, right. He's,
well,
he's
okay,
not gonna
fine. Will you kill me? Kill me. You know.
We get a really excellent kind of reintroduction to some of Peter's supporting cast, and there's some strong character stuff here. Say what you will about Nick Spencer's run. I think it was a good idea for him to bring back Randy Robertson.
Yeah, I like Randy.
Son of Robbie Robertson. And give him some prominence as Pete's roommate / best friend, R.I.P. Harry. Harry's been dead for quite some time.
He'll be back. Don't worry.
I mean, I don't know. He already came back once and they turned him into a weird bug guy.
Oh, he'll be back again. Don't you worry.
All right, fine. We get a brief Spider-Boy appearance. I should probably go back and figure out exactly what the hell Spider-Boy's all about.
I don't care. I don't want to know. I'm not into it.
I mean, it was a Dan Slott. You know what? That Dan Slott had an entire Spider-Man ongoing run, a new Spider-Man ongoing run that we have not reviewed even once.
I know. It was Spider-Boy.
And now Spider-Boy's on like number 10. Like, damn.
Whatever.
The scene that shows the backstory of the Covenant is absolutely stunning. This is the section that's done by Nico Henrichan of Pride of Baghdad fame. It's just really gorgeous stuff.
Man, Cytorax never looked so fat and gross, too.
I know. I love that Sidorak is just
He's
like
cool.
this fat blob of gross guy. I love all the little details here, like young Doctor Strange striking this horrific deal. because he just wasn't very savvy about it.
But it's also like
And-
Doom telling the story, and Doctor Strange is doing this amazing thing, right? And dying while doing it and giving his life.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is just, and Doctor Doom is like, he
yeah.
sucks so bad at it.
Yeah, right. Like you'd never catch Doom
Like,
doing
how
something
come
like
you're
that.
not doing it then, Doom? You
Yeah.
know?
I also like that Doom chose Spider-Man as his champion because he needed someone familiar with pain, which is just like really a punch in the gut. Spoilers. Spidey's first death and resurrection occurs in this issue. It is a fantastic scene.
It's gross.
McGinnis has really leveled up here. His work throughout the issue, and especially the resurrection, the death and resurrection scene, is just incredible. A brief appearance by the new embodiment of death, Phil Coulson, which I guess
Look, I don't care about that, but I'll say, written really well. It sounded.
it was well done.
You
I
could
like
hear
it.
Phil
Kelly is
Coulson.
playing the hand that he's dealt.
Yeah, and you could hear Phil Coulson saying that, like, "Oh, ooh, I didn't look.
Oh,
at
I'm
your
so
name.
sorry." Right.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I'm sorry. You know, like, it's great.
Oh, and I tell you what, my favorite little bit of dialogue from this issue is when Coulson figures out the deal behind why Spidey's being resurrected.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, I am so sorry. Stay
Yeah.
strong." You know, it's just like, ugh. Let's be honest though, that magic spider armor is very silly looking.
I mean, sure, but look, this is exactly what I believe Doctor Doom would design. It's exactly
I
what
think
I
in
believe
my
he would
mind,
design.
if they flip-flopped the red and the gray, I think it would look better.
I mean,
but
maybe,
it might not
whatever.
look different enough.
But I can see Doom making this and go, yes, that is awesome.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Doom. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Doom approves. This is a buy it. I love Joe Kelly. I love Ed McGuinness. Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness are a great team together. It's so good to have them back. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And it's about time we get to this crap that they started last goddamn summer, right? Like, they left us with this huge, at the end of Blood
Hunt, which
right.
was this summer.
At the end of Blood Hunt, they left us with this
Yeah.
massive Doctor Doom thing, and then everyone's like, we'll talk about that in a few months. Goodbye. So about time we got to it. I do think Ed McGuinness has toned it down, and it is for the best. I'm not saying like I ever didn't like Ed McGuinness's stuff, but it got to a point where it was so cartoony that everything felt like a joke. And I don't think you can come in and do this story as effective the way that Joe Kelly's going to write it if things are going to look that cartoony, right?
He's kind of come through the other side, right? Like as his style has evolved.
Well, I mean, look, man,
it's still kind of cartoony.
He just did a
and his
rec
style
rap.
still shines through.
He just did a rec rap thing in the last issue that was like,
Right. I'm not saying he can't flex it when he needs to,
Yeah.
but like if you compare this to some of his work from years past, especially his earliest work on Deadpool, like all of those characters looked like caricatures.
sure.
But here, everybody, like in all of the human scenes, the secret identity scenes, they all look normal.
But even
You know,
Spider-Man, even Spider-Boy, he's toned it down. They don't look so
Right.
cartoony, and it's great. This is an excellent first issue. I am in on the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. Bye.
We've got links with more details on these comics in the show notes, and you can find them and our written reviews over at twoheadednerd.com. Matt, before we move on, we each need to pick a comic for Macho to add to the THN permanent collection. Despite the fact that we're wearing felt reading gloves, we are still not allowed to touch
No,
them.
we don't get to file anything. He's got a filing system. We don't even need to understand it, all right?
I've never even seen the room where they're filed.
We're surrounded by them. We live in a pyramid made of long boxes.
Oh, is that our backstory? Gosh, I should pay attention to the lore more.
You really should. Come on.
Sorry.
This is hard for me because there was so much stuff. We literally gave everything a buy-it this week, which is difficult.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of really good stuff. I think the comic that made me feel the best about the direction it's going to be going for the near future is probably Amazing Spider-Man. And I love this team.
Matthew, that is not the exercise.
I-
What's the best book you read? Your favorite thing?
I understand the exercise, and I think my favorite thing that I read was Amazing Spider-Man number 61 because I'm excited.
You never say it that way. You always got to give me some weird thing.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I think the book is in an excellent place, and I love this writer, and I love that Ed McGuinness is dialing it down a little bit. Okay, so that is why I'm picking.
I can't in good conscience give it to Amazing Spider-Man, even though I loved it. When we had books like One for Sorrow and Living Hell.
One for Sorrow was great. It was really good.
And those books are on another level.
Living Hell is really good. But Living Hell is one of those things where it's like, look, I want to see where it goes. I want to see where it goes. And it's like I almost need to judge it as like a whole story, maybe. The best single issue that I had the most fun reading this week was Spider-Man. It was. I can't fight it.
I'm giving it to One for Sorrow. I loved Living Hell. If I got to pick one that was the biggest surprise of the week, it would be Living Hell. But One for Sorrow really blew me away. And great. I want Macho to go into the storage room and get the extra-sized, magazine-sized bags and boards, because you know them distillery books don't fit in Silver Age bags, baby.
I don't think they fit in those either, honestly.
Well, I think they fit in magazine
thick and
bags,
a little bigger. It's time to head to the THN Sanctum Sanctorum, which is at the very top of the pyramid. It's like the top room, right?
That makes sense to me, because you have to be able to open it up and see the artificial sun.
There's a door, sound effect, and everything. So to make our must-read comic pick for next Wednesday, November 20th, Joe, there's one thing I know you can't resist. It's when Archie gets superpowers. So I got to ask, how fired up for you for next week's Archie is Mr. Justice?
I know that you're making fun of me and making a joke, but the answer is very. No, because I love Archie superheroes.
Good.
Love them.
But when Archie becomes a superhero?
Oh, sure, man. That was a thing back then. I grew up reading Archie. You forget. And every time Archie and the gang got to become superheroes, I was thrilled.
Sounds cool. I was kissing girls, but anyway.
Happened when you were 5? Sure. I doubt it.
I lost my virginity when I was 6. Anyway.
My pick for next week is The Question, All Along the Watchtower, #1 from DC. It's written by Alex Segura with art by Sean Tormey. Is that what we settled on?
Yeah,
Sean?
It's probably Sean.
All right. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. Who watches the Watchtower? In the wake of absolute power, the Justice League Unlimited has created a haven for all heroes. But can they keep it secure? Enter Renee Montoya, reeling from an abrupt end to her time in Gotham and looking for a place. That's right. Wasn't she the commissioner for a while?
Yeah,
she was the commissioner for a while.
For a minute, yeah.
And looking for a place to hang her hat. But the Trinity didn't bring her up to the Watchtower to relax. There's a dark threat bubbling underneath the surface, and only the Question and her ad hoc support team stand a chance of figuring out who the problem is before it's too late.
Finally, we get the Question as a security guard. Yes!
Well, okay, sure, yeah. No. I think of it more like chief of security, like Chief O'Brien, not a security guard.
Sure. This is a departure. This is a pretty big departure from what we've seen with The Question, street level detective.
Sure, but it sounds like they're doing mystery stuff.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm curious, and I want to read a good monthly Question book. I love the character. I love Renee Montoya. I kind of don't care who is in the Question costume, quite honestly. I like Vic Sage. I like Renee Montoya.
I read either of them.
This is definitely a departure. That's all I'm saying.
My biggest hesitation with this one is that I don't know that I read a ton of stuff by Alex Segura that I found very memorable.
Yeah.
That's not a slam. He doesn't have a ton of writing under his belt. I always remember Alex Segura as like an editor type. He was on the back. He was in the behind the scenes.
That means low bar to clear then, huh? Nowhere to go but up.
You know, don't screw it up, man. I like the Question a lot, so don't fuck it up.
My pick for next week is Imbokodo, #1 from Dark Horse. It's written by Tabo Rametsi and Tabiso Mabana. Going with that, and I apologize if I did it wrong.
Sure.
Art by Katlego Motang. It is 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. In the land of the Pyramid Sun, a single step of the Batimu is 1,000 Muntu lifetimes. This is the land of Ndwao, home of the first Muntu. I know this. I hate that a white guy's doing this. I'm sorry, but here I am.
Yeah.
1,000 years after the Great War between the Badimu that brought darkness to the land and birthed a new kind of Muntu, one that wants, owns, and is never sated. Ndwano remains divided. And recently, numerous young girls have gone missing from their villages. A trail of carnage left in their wake. In the empire of Monomotapa, Queen Nyamika commands the greatest warriors in all of Ndwao, the Imbokodo. Here, a nameless woman will fight to secure her place amongst the Imbokodo to stand for the queen, the empire, and for the freedom of all Muntu. This adds to the greatly needed representation of black heroes in a world of comics and fantasy. When I first read about this, it says Afrofuturism at its best. I'll take your word for it. The art is tickling my Joe Madeira Battle Chasers pickle. I'll tell you what, this art looks hot. Like super sexy.
All right.
And we just read that Akogun book from Oni.
Akogun, Brutalizer of Gods.
Which we really enjoyed. And this seems like they're going for a very similar fantasy, very Afrofuture fantasy, and it just looks slick as hell. I'm hoping this is great. I'm really hoping for this one. I want this one to succeed.
Into it. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, looks fun.
Before this episode is removed from our feed for unpatriotic themes, we wanted to give you a preview of our Patreon Extra. When you become a patron for as little as $1 a month, you can get full access to all kinds of extra THN content, just like this.
Welcome to your THN Patreon Extra for this week. As you heard earlier in the episode, G.I. Joe has a brand new #1 over at Skybound, Image, and spoilers, we loved it. It's not a spoiler because you already heard it, but as of this point, we have not reviewed it together yet. We're recording this ahead of time. It was great.
Spoilers to us. We both loved it.
Yeah, we loved it. So we thought, why not take a moment and revisit the one that started it all? The first Marvel G.I. Joe, a real American hero comic book. We were just pups when this came out.
Just pups.
Larry Hamill was working with a 3-headed monster. There was comics, there were cartoons, there were toys. It was all happening. But at this point, we had 2 types of comics. You had, well, not 2 types, but war comics were very separate from superhero comics. This would be the first to really blur the two together, if you will.
I mean, yeah, there was weird war stories, but that wasn't necessarily like jetpacks and ray guns.
Right, it was just a weird war story. This was a whole different animal.
It was we can all agree that G.I. Joe is essentially the superheroization of the American military.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the military wasn't running around with throwing stars back then, so
yeah, nobody was running around with a shirtless with a sash across their chest and a Karate Kid headband, like quick kick.
So let's do it. A little cosmic short box, G.I. Joe style, for the very first G.I. Joe comic book.
All right, Matt, try to keep up. This is going to come at you fast. As Matt said, this is G.I. Joe, a real American hero #1. It is not the OG G.I. Joe comic. G.I. Joe did appear in comics years prior. I think even DC put out some.
Not
but
like
these,
this, though.
those were the big old...
Yeah.
Not G.I. Joe as we knew it, as we came to love it. This is from Marvel, 1982, written by Larry Hama. All of the things Matt mentioned before. Pencils are by the legend, Herb Trimpe, with inks by Bob McLeod. Colors, my girl Glynis Ween, the future former Mrs. Ween.
The future former Mrs. Ween, yeah.
Letters are by Jim Novak. It is in near mint condition. This book will cost you. It's $200 in mint condition. I did not know it was still that valuable.
I would have thought it's even higher, quite honestly. So
I remember back when I was at the shop, I thought you could get a pretty nice copy for maybe $100 or less, but here we are. CGC 9.8. It's going to cost you a cool $1,000.
Yeah, I believe that. I would have thought that would be higher too. I don't know.
This is what we call a key issue, my friends. Capital K, capital I. All right. Here's some setup about G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Following the success of Kenner's Star Wars action figures, Hasbro decided to relaunch their classic G.I. Joe toy line in the early 80s. We mentioned it a second ago. You may have seen them on documentaries or in your dad's attic or whatever. They're the tall ass 12-inch, clunky kung fu grip.
Yeah, it was the Big Jim. It was the Mezco, like large.
Yeah, I mean, it was retooled to be Big Jim when they decided that Army stuff was not en vogue anymore.
Sure. Well, the whole Vietnam War ruined it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
To be fair, I think the Korean War was probably to blame too. Let's not blame it all on Vietnam. So
no, I'm pretty sure it was Vietnam because this was by the 70s. They were like, oh shit, kids don't want to play with Army guys anymore. Let's make them an adventurer. After a chance meeting in the men's room, according to Jim Shooter.
What was going on there? Tapping some toes
two boys
at the urinal?
saddled up to the urinal at the same time. The president of Marvel, the president of Hasbro.
Meet me in the stall. I want to talk to you about something.
Yeah, right. One of them slid his foot underneath the wall. Yeah. Tap, tap, tap. Marvel Comics was tasked after that meeting with helping the toy giant revitalize the franchise. The toys were supported by, of course, a Marvel Comics series of the same name. They were promoted on TV, something that was unique at the time in order to skirt restrictions on toy advertising. Here's something that will blow your minds, young people. Advertising toys on TV used to be highly regulated.
Yep.
Advertising to children.
You had to show how kids play with the toys and stuff like that. Oh, because otherwise, what would the kid do? Take it out of the package and just like swallow it like a snake? I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm not sure if the kid understanding the toy was the concern. I think it was predatory type stuff. But hey, good news. None of those laws are around anymore.
No.
Excelsior!
That is it for THN 760. If you dig our new comic reviews, check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe to each show separately. And hey, we got a back issue show. We got a new comic show. We got a gang hang. And you can even just turn them on, let them play in the background, turn the sound off. It helps, all right?
Hey, we don't even care.
Yeah. You can also listen to them as podcasts on YouTube Music. Next week, the back issue show returns, and I promise you we're going to research it a little better this time. If you need more THN before that, join us for the THN Gang Hang. It happens on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. Check out our Discord for details. Joe Patrick, what else can nerds do at the Discord?
You can lament with us that we never got more of the Michael Fassbender as young Magneto Nazi hunter. You can respond to John Taverdik's controversial hot takes about the X-Men and Ben Affleck's Batman.
I did not find either to be that controversial, quite honestly. I agree with both.
And you can order tax services from Ed Fett, Mandalorian accountant. Or maybe you just want to answer the question of the week. This week's question, and let me tell you, it's been a popular one because we got a lot of fans in the Discord. What's your favorite thing about the world of G.I. Joe? Your favorite issue of the comic, your favorite figure or vehicle, your favorite episode of the cartoon, etc. And, not to leave out people that didn't grow up loving G.I. Joe. If that's the case, tell us your favorite thing about your childhood franchise of choice.
I think that's too much. I think we talk about G.I. Joe. You know what I'd like to hear?
But some people didn't grow up loving G.I. Joe.
If you don't like G.I. Joe, I'd like to hear why. What is
It's not always a reason, man. Sometimes, I didn't grow up watching SWAT cats.
Like, if G.I. Joe is not... Well,
or Sectars.
That's not the point. If you have an opinion why you don't like G.I. Joe, you tried it, didn't work, you're not into it. I would love to hear it, because I've never encountered a nerd that was like, fuck that, I hate G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe's stupid. I've never met that guy. I would like to hear from him.
I mean, yeah, that would be interesting for sure.
Guy or girl. I've never met that person. I would like to hear from them.
Please keep your question of the week suggestions coming. We do have one on deck from Frank Cirillo. Thank you, Frank. You can sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord, where you can post about any of our segments. Or if you don't dig on Discord, send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers, Ask a Nerd, or any of our segments to twoheadednerd@gmail.com. And if you wanna, we'll put you on the show. Just remember, the Worldwide Ziggurat has a strict no jerks allowed policy.
If you're new to the show and you're calling the House of Un-American Activities Committee for our stance on workers' rights, I assure you it gets much more liberal from here. And if you listen more, you'll find a lot more evidence. The good news is you can hear the entire run of THN, where we accept everyone for who they are, be it their gender, who they love, who they pray to. We don't care. We just like everybody. At twoheadednerd.com, THN is a listener-supported podcast, and it wouldn't be possible without the generosity of donors like our patron, Stephen Dowell. If you like what you hear every week, just like Stephen does, it's easy to support this show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/2headednerd.
Apologies to Steven, but you're on their radar now too. Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to our original overseas correspondent, Chris, the British guy, who is still with us today.
God
we
bless
don't hear
him.
from him as often as we used
Can't understand a word he says, but God bless
to. I mean, yeah.
we just did.
I love his energy.
I fell off my Duolingo British streak a while back.
Sure.
You know?
It did take a few weeks for the boat from England to get the news here to America, but Chris and his lovely fiancée Hannah were married late last month.
Oh, hey. Mazel tov, huh?
Pip, pip, old chum, and word to you, Mr. and Mrs. Bell.
Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics. Your retailer might just tell Dan Slott what you think of Spider-Boy. This is a two-headed nerd signing off. The costume is cute.
Look, Dan, it's not that we don't have anything against him in theory. We just don't know him.
I don't need a Spider-Boy. I don't need it. There's too many spider people. Miles, Pete, I'm good. Stop. No more.
There are too many.
Too many.
Well, that is true.